My parents didn't invite me to Thanksgiving this year. Mom texted, "We're only having your sister's family this year." I replied, "Have a good time." They had no idea I owned a $600,000 estate. I invited everyone else, and when they saw the photos, my phone exploded. The text came through on a Tuesday afternoon while I was in a board meeting. My phone buzzed against the mahogany table, and I glanced down to see Mom's name on the screen. "Hi, sweetie. Just wanted to let you know we're doing something smaller this year for Thanksgiving. We're only having Rachel's family over. Hope you understand. Love you." I stared at the message for a solid 30 seconds. Rachel. Of course, it was Rachel, my older sister, who still lived in our hometown of Bakersfield, California, working as a part-time administrative assistant at Dad's dental practice. Rachel, who had given them 2 grandchildren. Rachel, who called every Sunday without fail. Rachel, who needed Mom to babysit twice a week because childcare was expensive. I'm Barbara, by the way. The daughter who moved to Boston 8 years ago for a job opportunity that my parents still don't fully understand. The one who works in something with computers, as Dad vaguely describes it to his golf buddies. The daughter who couldn't make it home for Easter because of a product launch. The one who missed Dad's retirement party because I was closing a Series C funding round in Singapore. I typed back quickly. Have a good time. No explanation needed. No guilt trip. Just 4 words and an exclamation point that took me 3 tries to add because my hands were shaking. My colleague Amanda noticed my expression. "You okay, Barb?" "Fine," I said, sliding my phone face down. "Let's continue with Q4 projections." But I wasn't fine. The exclusion burned in a way I hadn't expected. After the meeting, I sat in my office on the 42nd floor overlooking Boston Harbor and let myself feel it. 29 years old. Chief Operations Officer of a tech company that had gone public 6 months earlier and was now valued at $800 million. Owner of a home I purchased in May with proceeds from selling some of my vested shares. A home I hadn't told anyone in my family about because honestly, they'd stopped asking about my life years ago. My phone rang. It was my fiancé, Christopher. "Hey babe, still on for dinner tonight? Can we actually skip the restaurant?" I asked. "I want to show you something." 2 hours later, we were standing in the circular driveway of my estate in Dover, Massachusetts. I closed on the property in May, a 12,000 square foot Georgian colonial on 8 acres with views of the Charles River. The previous owner had been a hedge fund manager who'd relocated to London. The timing had been perfect. Our company's IPO in April had finally given me the liquidity to make an all-cash offer. "This is yours," Christopher breathed, staring up at the limestone facade. "Ours if you want it to be," I said. I was saving it as a surprise for after the wedding, but I think I need to do something with it sooner. I told him about the text about Rachel, about how I'd spent the last 8 years building something incredible, while my family treated me like an afterthought. Christopher knew some of it already. He'd heard me on phone calls with Mom where I talked about acquisitions and international expansions while she interjected to ask if I'd met any nice men yet, because Rachel's husband Kyle was such a catch. And wouldn't it be nice if I settled down too? "What are you thinking?" Christopher asked carefully. "I'm thinking I want to host Thanksgiving," I said. "A real one. And I want to invite everyone except the people who just uninvited me." His eyes widened. "Everyone. Aunt Beverly, Uncle Martin, Cousin Holly and her husband, Uncle Rick, Aunt Stephanie, and Uncle Trevor. All of Dad's siblings. All of Mom's siblings, their kids, their kids' kids. Every single person who's ever been to a Thompson family gathering, except Mom. Dad and Rachel's family." Christopher was quiet for a moment. "That's nuclear. They fired first." He laughed, then really laughed. "All right, let's do it. But we're hiring caterers because I'm not cooking for 50 people. The next morning I started making calls. Aunt Beverly picked up on the second ring. "Barbara, sweetheart, how are you?" "I'm wonderful, Aunt Bev. Listen, I know this is short notice, but Christopher and I just moved into a new place in Massachusetts and we'd love to host Thanksgiving this year. Would you and Uncle Martin be able to make it?" There was a pause. "Oh, honey, that sounds lovely. But your mother said Thanksgiving was at their place this year. Rachel's hosting, I think." "Actually, they're doing a smaller gathering, just Rachel's immediate family. So I thought I'd host everyone else. The house is huge, plenty of room, and we're right near Logan Airport, so flights are easy." Another pause, longer this time. "They're not inviting the whole family. Apparently not. But I'd really love to have you here. I haven't seen you since your 70th birthday party, and I feel terrible about that." Aunt Beverly had always been my favorite. She'd sent me handwritten letters during my first year at MIT full of encouragement when I'd felt overwhelmed and homesick. She'd been the only one who had flown out for my college graduation when Mom and Dad had stayed home because Rachel was 8 months pregnant with her first. "We'll be there," she said firmly. "Email me the details." By the end of the day, I'd called 15 relatives. By the end of the week, 38 people had confirmed. Everyone said yes. Some sounded confused about the split gathering. Others sounded angry on my behalf. My cousin Holly was the most direct. "Your mom didn't invite you to Thanksgiving. Are you kidding me?" "It's fine," I said. "I'm not upset." "I'd be furious." "Actually, I am furious," Mom Holly shouted away from the phone. "Barbara's parents uninvited her from Thanksgiving. Can you believe that?" I heard Aunt Stephanie's outraged response in the background. "We're absolutely coming to your place," Holly continued. "And I'm bringing my famous pecan pie, the one that won the county fair. You don't have to. I'm bringing 6 of them. This is happening." I hired a catering company that specialized in holiday events. When the coordinator came to tour the house, she walked through the formal dining room, the great room, the library, and the sunroom, before turning to me with wide eyes. "Miss Thompson, this is the most beautiful home I've worked in all year. The kitchen alone is a caterer's dream." "I want it to be perfect," I said. "Traditional Thanksgiving, but elevated. Turkey, obviously, but also beef tenderloin for anyone who doesn't like turkey. All the classic sides, but restaurant quality. And desserts. Lots of desserts. Budget not a concern." She smiled. "I love this job." Christopher and I spent the next 2 weeks preparing. We furnished the dining room with a table that seated 24 custom-made and rush-delivered. We set up the sunroom with additional seating for the kids. We ordered linen china crystal glasses and enough silverware to stock a small restaurant. The florist came 3 times to finalize the centerpiece designs, autumn arrangements with burgundy dahlias, orange roses, and gold accents. I didn't tell my parents any of this. Mom texted twice, once to share a photo of Rachel's kids in their Halloween costumes, and once to ask if I'd remembered to update my voter registration after moving. I responded politely to both. Dad didn't text at all, but that was normal. Rachel called me 10 days before Thanksgiving. "Hey Barb, Mom said you're not coming for Thanksgiving." "Yeah, she mentioned you guys were keeping it small this year. Sounds nice." "Oh." Rachel sounded uncertain. "I mean, if you really want to come, I'm sure we could make room." "That's okay, I've got plans." "Plans like with Christopher's family." "Something like that." "Okay, well, have fun, I guess. Kyle's smoking a turkey this year. His first time doing the whole bird himself. Should be interesting." She laughed nervously. I wondered if she knew Mom had uninvited me specifically, or if she thought I'd simply chosen not to come. Either way, she didn't push. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, relatives started arriving. Aunt Beverly and Uncle Martin flew in first, and when I picked them up from the airport, Aunt Beverly gasped as we pulled into the driveway. "Barbara Marie Thompson, what on earth you bought a mansion?" "It's not a mansion," I protested. "Honey, I can see 6 chimneys from here. It's a mansion." Uncle Martin whistled low as we walked through the front door into the 2-story foyer with its sweeping double staircase. "Your parents know about this place." "No, actually." Aunt Beverly's expression shifted to something fierce. "Good." By Wednesday evening, the house was full. Cousin Holly had arrived with her husband Thomas and their 3 kids. Uncle Rick and his wife Samantha came with their twin daughters. Aunt Stephanie and Uncle Trevor drove up from New York with their son Benjamin and his girlfriend. Even distant cousins I hadn't seen in years showed up. Michael from Chicago, Danielle from Atlanta, Kevin from Seattle. The energy was incredible. Kids ran through the halls, their laughter echoing off the high ceilings. The adults gathered in the library with wine and cocktails, catching up on years of missed conversations. Christopher grilled steaks on the outdoor kitchen for a casual Wednesday dinner, and we ate at the long farm table in the breakfast room overlooking the gardens. "Barbara, this is unreal," Michael said. "You're living like royalty out here." "I work a lot," I said simply. "It's nice to have space when I'm home." "What exactly do you do again?" asked Kevin's wife, Lauren. I explained, probably more clearly than I'd ever explained it to my parents, the tech company. My role in scaling operations, the acquisition deals. I'd negotiated the international teams I managed. Lauren worked in marketing and asked sharp questions. We talked for an hour about growth strategies and market positioning. Aunt Beverly sat beside me, her hand on my arm. She didn't say anything, but I felt the pride radiating from her. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through the quiet house, checking that everyone had enough towels and blankets. Through the guest room windows, I could see the property lit by landscaped lighting. The gardens, the pool house, the tennis court, the small pond at the edge of the woods. I'd bought this place as proof that I'd made it. Proof that leaving Bakersfield and choosing my career over proximity to family had been worth it. But standing there at 300 in the morning, I realized I'd never needed to prove anything. The people who mattered, like Aunt Beverly, like Holly, like all these relatives who dropped everything to fly across the country because I'd asked, they already saw me. My parents were the ones who were blind. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and bright. The caterers showed up at 600 a.m. And by 9, the house smelled like heaven: turkey, stuffing, roasted vegetables, fresh bread, cinnamon, nutmeg, brown sugar. The kids helped set the tables carefully, placing name cards at each seat. We'd arranged it so families could sit together, but everyone was close enough to talk across tables. Christopher found me in the kitchen sneaking a piece of candied bacon from one of the appetizer trays. "You nervous?" he asked. "About what?" "About later, when they see the photos." Because that was the plan. Holly's daughter Megan was a photography student at NYU, and she'd volunteered to document everything. Professional quality photos of the house, the meal the family gathered together. Christopher and I had decided to post them on social media right when my parents would be sitting down to their small dinner in Bakersfield. "Not nervous," I said. "Is that terrible?" "No," Christopher said. "It's honest." At 2 p.m., we gathered everyone for grace. Uncle Martin, being the eldest, said the prayer. He thanked God for family, for safe travels, for the blessing of coming together. He thanked God for Barbara, for her generosity and her beautiful home and her loving heart. I definitely teared up a little at that. The meal was extraordinary. The caterers had outdone themselves. Turkey so moist it fell apart at the touch of a fork. Stuffing with sage and cranberries. Mashed potatoes whipped with butter and cream. Green beans with almonds. Sweet potato casserole with a pecan crust. Macaroni and cheese that made the kids swoon. Cranberry sauce, both canned and homemade, because family debates about proper cranberry sauce are apparently universal. And the desserts? Apple pie, pumpkin pie, chocolate, silk pie, cherry pie, pecan pie, tiramisu, creme brulee, and something the caterer called autumn trifle that involved layers of spiced cake, vanilla custard, and caramel. People ate until they couldn't move. Then they ate more dessert. "This is the best Thanksgiving I've ever been to, little Emma," announced Stephanie's granddaughter, who was 7 and missing her 2 front teeth. "Me too, kid," said Uncle Rick. "Me too." Before posting anything, Christopher and I retreated to the library for a moment alone. Through the French doors, we could see our family scattered throughout the house, some lingering at the dining table, others gathered around the fireplace in the great room. Kids sprawled on the floor playing board games. "Last chance to back out," Christopher said, though his tone suggested he knew I wouldn't. I thought about all the holidays I'd spent trying to prove myself worthy of inclusion. The Christmas I'd flown home for just 36 hours between product launches, arriving exhausted and jet-lagged, only to have Mom spend the entire visit talking about Rachel's promotion to senior administrative assistant. The Easter I'd sent expensive gifts for everyone and received a group text saying thanks with no personal acknowledgement. The 4th of July barbecue I'd driven 12 hours to attend where Dad's friends asked what I did, and he answered vaguely before changing the subject to Rachel's son's Little League team. "I'm not backing out," I said. At 4 Southern California time, 7:00 p.m. in Boston, I posted the photos. Megan had captured everything perfectly. The exterior of the house in the golden afternoon light, looking like something from Architectural Digest. The dining room with its elegant table settings and elaborate centerpieces. The family gathered together, laughing and raising glasses. The kids playing in the game room we'd set up in the basement with a pool table and vintage arcade games. Christopher and me in the kitchen, him kissing my cheek while I laughed. And the food. Oh, the food photos were works of art. I posted them to Instagram and Facebook with a simple caption: "Grateful for family, for love, and for this beautiful life. Happy Thanksgiving from our home to yours. Orange heart emoji." Within minutes, the reactions started rolling in. Friends from college, colleagues from work, former classmates, distant acquaintances, everyone commenting on the stunning house, the amazing spread, the picture-perfect celebration. And then at 4:17 p.m., Mom called. I let it ring. Christopher raised his eyebrows at me from across the room where he was playing cards with some of the younger cousins. She called again at 4:23. At 4:31, I received a text. "Barbara, please call me." "Where are you?" "Is that your house?" "Call me right now." Dad texted at 4:45. "What's going on?" Your mother is very upset. Call home, please." At 5:02, Rachel called. I almost answered that one, but decided against it. The text kept coming. "Mom, I don't understand. When did you buy a house? Why didn't you tell us?" Mom again. "Is that Aunt Beverly in those photos? You invited everyone to your house." Mom again, "Barbara, this isn't funny. We need to talk about this." Dad. "Your mother wants to know why we weren't invited to your Thanksgiving." Rachel, Barb, seriously. "What's happening?" Mom is freaking out. "Did you really invite the whole family except us?" I silenced my phone and slipped it into my pocket. Around me, my chosen family continued their celebration. Uncle Martin and Christopher were debating the merits of various bourbon brands. Aunt Beverly was teaching a group of kids how to play an old card game. Holly found me in the library. "Your phone's been buzzing nonstop," she said knowingly. "I know. You gonna answer?" "Eventually. Not today." She hugged me tight. "I'm proud of you, cousin. This took guts." The thing about validation is that you don't realize how starved you've been for it until someone offers it freely. Growing up, I'd been the straight A student who made honor roll every semester. But the praise always came with caveats. Barbara got all A's again, but she needs to work on her social skills. Barbara won the science fair, but she should spend more time on normal teenage activities. Rachel, meanwhile, got celebrated for showing up. Rachel made the volleyball team huge celebration. Rachel got a B+ in math. We went out for ice cream. Rachel started dating Kyle. Mom cried happy tears. I'd learned early that my achievements made people uncomfortable, so I'd started downplaying them, making myself smaller, apologizing for success. When I got into MIT with a full scholarship, I'd barely told anyone, because Mom had spent the entire week talking about how far away Massachusetts was and how she'd miss me. When I landed my first major promotion at 24, making more money than Dad had ever made, I'd lied and said it was a lateral move. When my company went public and my equity suddenly became worth actual millions, I'd said nothing at all. Standing in this house I purchased with money I'd earned through my own brilliance and hard work, surrounded by family who'd chosen to celebrate me, I felt something shift inside my chest. Permission, maybe. Permission to take up space. Permission to be proud. Permission to stop apologizing for being extraordinary. By the evening, my phone had 63 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most were from Mom and Rachel. A few were from relatives who'd gone to my parents' small gathering and were now apparently caught in the fallout. Rachel's brother-in-law texted from Kyle's phone. "Dude, your mom just saw your Instagram. She literally screamed, 'This is insane.' That's her house wild." I didn't respond to him either. What I did do was sit by the fire in the library with Christopher, Aunt Beverly, Uncle Martin, and a few others who decided to extend their stay through the weekend. We drank wine and talked about real things, careers, dreams, regrets, hopes. Aunt Beverly told stories about my grandmother, her sister who'd passed away when I was 12. Uncle Martin talked about building his business from nothing and the sacrifices he'd made. "Your parents love you," Aunt Beverly said quietly. "They just don't know how to show it in a way you need." "Maybe," I said, "but I'm done making myself smaller to fit their understanding of who I should be." "Good," she said firmly. "Don't ever shrink yourself for anyone." That night I thought about the version of myself I'd been. At 21, graduating from MIT with dreams bigger than anything Bakersfield could contain. I'd been so sure my family would eventually understand, would eventually see what I was building and feel proud. I'd waited for that moment of recognition for 8 years. The moment when Dad would brag about me to his golf buddies with real enthusiasm instead of embarrassment. The moment when Mom would ask about my work because she genuinely wanted to know, not because she felt obligated. The moment when Rachel would look at me with admiration instead of barely concealed resentment. I kept waiting, kept hoping, kept making myself available for breadcrumbs of approval that never came. And somewhere along the way, I'd stopped waiting. I'd stopped hoping. I'd built this incredible life anyway, not because they believed in me, but because I believed in myself. The estate had been my final test. Part of me had wanted to tell them about it immediately, to see if this tangible, undeniable proof of my success would finally earn their pride. But I'd held back, and now I understood why. Their approval had stopped mattering somewhere along the way. I'd bought this house for me, not for them. I'd hosted this Thanksgiving for me, not despite them. Their exclusion had simply provided the catalyst I needed to stop performing for an audience that would never applaud. Friday morning, I finally listened to my voicemails. Mom's first message, "Barbara, where are you? I just saw your pictures online. That house, is that really yours? Why didn't you tell us? And you invited everyone. Beverly and Martin flew out to see you. I don't understand what's happening. Please call me back. Her second, sweetheart, I think there's been a misunderstanding. When I said we were keeping Thanksgiving small, I meant well. I meant we couldn't afford to host everyone this year. Her second message, sweetheart, I think there's been a misunderstanding. When I said we were keeping Thanksgiving small, I meant well. I meant we couldn't afford to host everyone this year. Dad's retired now, and it's expensive, and Rachel volunteered to do the cooking, but her house is small, so we thought, we didn't think you'd mind. You're always so busy. You never come home anyway. That one stung because it was partially true. I had stopped coming home as often, but that had been a gradual withdrawal, a response to years of feeling like an outsider in my own family. Her third message, Barbara Marie, this is ridiculous. You're being childish. You can't just exclude your parents and sister from a family gathering. People are calling and asking why we weren't there. Do you know how embarrassing this is? Call me immediately. Rachel's message was different. Hey Barb, I guess I understand why you're upset. Mom told me she texted you that we were only having us over, and I get that probably felt bad. For what it's worth, I didn't ask her to do that. I actually said we should invite you, but she said you were too busy with work and probably had plans with Christopher's family. I should have called you myself to invite you properly. That's on me. But this feels like a pretty aggressive response. That house is incredible, by the way. Congrats on doing so well. I didn't realize you were that successful. Anyway, call me when you can. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen island, watching early morning light stream through the windows. Christopher came downstairs in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair sticking up. You listen to them. Yeah. And Mom thinks I'm being childish. Rachel admits she should have reached out, but thinks my response was too much. Dad's staying quiet as usual. Christopher poured himself coffee and sat beside me. What do you want to do? That was the question, wasn't it? I could call them back, smooth things over, pretend this was all a miscommunication. Or I could hold my ground and let them sit with the consequences of making me feel unwanted. I want them to understand, I said finally, but I don't think they're capable of it. Understanding what? That success doesn't make me less their daughter. That choosing my career didn't mean I stopped wanting their approval or love. That every time Mom introduces me as our daughter who lives in Boston and does something with computers, it feels like she's apologizing for my existence. Christopher took my hand. You know what I think? I think they're scared. Scared of what? Of you. Of how far you've gone beyond their world. Your dad's a dentist in a small town. Your mom's a homemaker who volunteers at the church. Rachel followed the script they understood. Stay close. Marry young. Have kids. You're operating on a completely different level, and they don't know how to relate to that. So they've diminished it, made it smaller in their minds so it fits their understanding. That's not my fault. No, he agreed. It's absolutely not. But hurt people hurt people. They've been dealing with their own insecurity by making you feel like the odd one out. And now you've called them on it in a very public way. Do you think I'm wrong? I think you're human. And I think you deserved better from them. Whether this was the right way to handle it, he shrugged. I don't know. But it was honest. And sometimes honesty is brutal. Over the weekend, more relatives reached out. Some were supportive, telling me they'd been appalled to learn I'd been excluded. Others were more cautious, suggesting I should work things out with my parents. A few were critical, saying I'd gone too far by making the situation public. My cousin Michael sent a long message. Look, I get it. Family dynamics are complicated. But that display on social media felt designed to humiliate your parents. You have every right to be hurt, but did you have to blast it online? That's not solving anything. That's just revenge. He wasn't wrong. It was revenge in a way, but it was also truth. Sunday evening, after the last guests had left and the house was quiet again, I finally called Mom. She answered on the first ring. Barbara. Hi, Mom. Silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable. I don't know what to say to you, she said finally. I'm hurt. I'm embarrassed. Everyone's talking about how you excluded us from your fancy Thanksgiving party. You excluded me first. We didn't exclude you. We were just trying to keep things manageable. Rachel's house is only 1,500 square feet. We couldn't fit everyone. But you didn't tell me that. You said you were only having Rachel's family. You made a choice to have a small gathering and didn't include me in it. Because you're never here. Mom's voice rose. You haven't been home for a holiday in 3 years. You miss birthdays. You miss anniversaries. You barely call. Rachel's here all the time. She needs our help with the kids. She actually wants us in her life. I wanted you in my life too, I said quietly. I wanted you to visit me. I wanted you to ask about my work and actually listen to the answers. I wanted you to be proud of what I built instead of treating it like a phase I'm going through before I come to my senses and move home. We are proud of you. Are you? Because it's never felt that way? Mom was crying now. I could hear it in her breathing. You're so far away. You're so different from the daughter I raised. I don't understand your world. When you talk about your job, it sounds like a foreign language. Rachel makes sense to me. Her life makes sense. My life makes sense too, Mom. It's just not the life you imagined for me. I know, she whispered. I know that. And maybe I haven't handled it well. Maybe I've pulled away because I felt like you didn't need us anymore. You're so successful and independent. You have this whole life we're not part of. I'm not part of because you won't try to be. I've invited you to visit. You always say it's too far or too expensive or not the right time. I've tried to explain my work. You change the subject. I've asked to be included in family plans. You plan around Rachel's schedule and tell me after the fact. The silence stretched again. That house, Mom said eventually. It's really yours. Yes. It's beautiful. When did you buy it? 6 months ago. 6 months. And you didn't tell us. Would it have mattered? Would you have been happy for me? Or would you have made some comment about how I must work too much or how I'm spending money? I should be saving for a family. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Mom, I love you. I love Dad. I even love Rachel, though she drives me crazy sometimes. But I can't keep trying to force myself into a family dynamic where I'm always going to be the weird one, the outsider, the daughter who chose wrong. I deserve to be celebrated, not tolerated. You're not the weird one, Mom protested weakly. Then why does it always feel that way? The question hung in the air between us, years of accumulated hurt compressed into 7 words. I could hear Mom breathing on the other end, processing, struggling with an answer that wouldn't come because the truth was too uncomfortable. The truth was that I had always been the weird one in their eyes. The daughter who chose textbooks over boyfriends. The teenager who spent weekends at robotics competitions instead of football games. The young woman who moved 3,000 miles away for a career they didn't understand instead of settling down in the town where she was born. Different had always meant wrong in their worldview. And I'd spent too many years trying to translate myself into a language they could comprehend. Translating myself into a language they could comprehend. Diluting my complexity into simple sentences they could digest without choking. We talked for another 20 minutes. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a start. Mom admitted she'd handled the Thanksgiving invitation poorly. She admitted she'd made assumptions about my availability and priorities without actually asking me. She even admitted haltingly that she'd been jealous of my success in ways she didn't fully understand. Rachel needs us, she said again. You don't seem to need anyone. Everyone needs their parents, Mom. I just got tired of asking for scraps. When we hung up, I felt wrung out, but lighter somehow. Christopher held me while I cried, processing years of accumulated hurt. What happens now, he asked. I don't know, but I'm not apologizing for having boundaries. Monday morning brought a surprise. Rachel texted that she just landed at Logan Airport. I'm getting an Uber to your place. We need to talk. Don't worry, Kyle has the kids. I'm flying back tonight. 20 minutes later, she was standing on my front porch looking small and tired. I stepped aside and she walked into the foyer with the same wide-eyed expression everyone else had worn. Jesus, Barbara, this place is insane. You flew out here, I asked. Drove. I left last night after the kids went to bed. Kyle's watching them. I had to see you. We stood awkwardly until I gestured toward the kitchen. Coffee, please. Over coffee at the kitchen island, Rachel broke down. I booked a red-eye last night. Kyle thought I was crazy, but I had to see you. I couldn't do this over the phone. Do what? Apologize, explain, I don't even know. She wiped her eyes. I didn't know Mom texted you like that. I swear, Barb. She told me you were busy with work and couldn't make it. She said you told her you had other plans. When I saw those photos and all the family there, I realized she'd lied to me. To you, maybe to herself. Why would she do that? Rachel stared into her mug. Because she's jealous of you. Because I'm jealous of you. Because you got out and made something incredible of yourself. And we're all still in Bakersfield living the exact lives we lived 10 years ago. You have a family, kids, a husband. That's not nothing. It's not a $6 million estate, Rachel said bitterly. It's not international business deals and executive positions. It's play dates and grocery shopping and worrying about making rent. Is that why you never call me? I asked softly. Why you never ask about my life? Partially. Also because talking to you makes me feel like a failure. You're living this amazing life and I'm not. And I know that's my problem, not yours. But it's easier to just not engage than to confront how differently our lives turned out. We sat in silence. I thought about all the times I'd felt excluded, but I'd never considered that Rachel might be feeling her own version of inadequacy. The jealousy went both ways. I realized that while I'd been envying Rachel's easy inclusion in the family, she'd been envying the freedom and success I'd built for myself. while I'd watched her get praise for the simplest accomplishments. She'd been watching me achieve things she couldn't even imagine pursuing. We'd both been trapped in our own versions of resentment, neither of us seeing the other's pain. "I don't think you're a failure," I said finally. "Your kids are great. You seem happy with Kyle." "I am happy most of the time. But there's happy, and then there's whatever you have." She gestured around the kitchen. "How do you even afford this? Your job pays that well." I explained my equity compensation, my stock options, the acquisition bonuses. Her eyes glazed over a little, which made me laugh, despite everything. "See, I have no idea what any of that means," she admitted. "But good for you. Seriously, I'm sorry I've been a shitty sister. I'm sorry Mom's been a shitty mom about your success. I'm sorry we made you feel like you didn't belong. I'm sorry I handled this in such a public way," I said. "That wasn't fair to you. Honestly, it was kind of badass. Mom deserved to be called out. She's been treating you like an afterthought for years." We hugged, crying a little. It didn't fix everything, but it was something. Rachel stayed until early afternoon. We ordered lunch, talked more, and she showed me photos of her kids that I actually looked at instead of just nodding politely. Before she left for her evening flight back to California, she hugged me tight. "You should come visit more," I said. "Bring the kids in summer. They'd love the pool." "I'd like that," Rachel said, "if you actually mean it." I mean it. Over the following weeks, things slowly shifted. Mom and I talked more on the phone, real conversations where she asked questions and actually listened to the answers. Dad sent me an actual email, which was progress for him, saying he was proud of me and sorry for taking so long to say it. The extended family stayed in touch too. Aunt Beverly called every Sunday. Holly and I started planning a cousin's trip for next summer. Uncle Martin sent me a book on family dynamics with a note that said, "Thought you might find this interesting. You're braver than I ever was." Christopher and I set a wedding date for the following October. We'd get married on the estate in the gardens when the leaves were turning. I sent save the dates to everyone, including my parents and Rachel's family. Mom called when she received hers. "We'll be there," she said. "All of us. And Barbara. Thank you for not giving up on us." I didn't give up. I just stopped accepting less than I deserved. "I'm learning," she said. "It's hard, but I'm learning." It wasn't a perfect ending. Family dynamics don't transform overnight. But it was a beginning, a honest, painful, necessary beginning. Looking back, that text message on a Tuesday afternoon had been a gift, even though it hadn't felt like one. It had forced a confrontation I'd been avoiding for years. It had pushed me to stop diminishing myself to make others comfortable, and it had shown me who truly saw me, who truly valued me, who truly wanted to be part of my life. The house helped too. I won't lie. There's something about a $6.5 million estate that makes people reconsider their assumptions about you. But more than that, it became a symbol not of wealth, but of choosing myself, of building a life I was proud of instead of the life others expected from me. Every Thanksgiving since I've hosted. Sometimes my parents come, sometimes they don't. But the house is always full of people who celebrate me exactly as I am. And that's enough. Actually, it's more than enough. It's everything.